Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers, and tonight I have a very special guest with me who is a filmmaker, an indie filmmaker here in Georgia who has done shorts and features. And he continues to do shorts and features, and he's working on something even now. His name is Dave Watkins, and I'm going to let Dave tell us a little bit about himself before we get into the movie for this episode. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing?
Excellent.
So, I'm Dave Watkins. I'm a Atlanta filmmaker for the most part. I work on the indie films. Pretty much have done writing, producing, and directing, editing. But kind of a jack of all trades, but master of some of them. But yeah, um, but yeah. So, and I'm also a physical movie collector. I have a lot, I like large collections of movies, and I watch a lot of different types of movies, but a lot of horror movies as well. So, yeah.
That's great. You know what, Dave? We got to keep the physical media alive. And anyone who knows me knows I have an extensive collection as well. And my collection extends to every genre there is, every decade there is, and every country in the world I have a movie or two from. I'm glad to hear that there's another avid collector out there who's also a horror fan who's still collecting the physical media.
Yeah.
So,
I guess speaking of other countries, that movie that we're going to talk about, which when I picked it from the list, I wasn't thinking very well. But it is a French movie,
yeah.
and and the reason I picked the movie is because when the list came out, I just had gotten a 4K version of the movie that was released by Shout Factory, and I was like, okay, I want to watch this movie. And I'd seen it before several times, but I wasn't thinking. I was like, this is a French movie, and all the characters' names are French, and the actors are French names. But I've got some notes. I'm going to try to pronounce them. It's probably not going to come out too good, but we'll see what
That's
happens.
okay. For everyone out there, our movie for the night is Brotherhood of the Wolf. It is I think Christophe Ganz's film, or
Yeah, that's correct.
okay, that's right. See,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about him and another French director at the same time, and so I almost got them mixed up. I don't want to get them mixed up because I like them both. But
Yeah.
Christophe Ganz's film, I actually had to rewatch the movie because I hadn't seen it in a long time. All right, so Dave, to start off, I'd like to know a little bit about your first reaction to this film and what you thought about it.
Oh, well, I mean, I liked the film the first time I saw it. I did like appreciate it, but I did at the time I wasn't quite used to subtitles, and I'm better with it now. But I did watch the subtitle version the first time I saw it, and not the dub version. But and I you know but it, I did it. I don't know. It was one of those where I appreciated it, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I do when I watch it now. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The reason why I ended up picking up the film is mostly because I'm a fan of Mark Dacascos, so I knew he was in the movie, and so I said, "Oh, werewolf film! I gotta see this movie. He's in it. He's a martial artist." So I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is gotta be interesting," and it actually was because it's one of those rare films where you get to see him oddly play an Indian character, but he's still
Right.
kicking people's asses.
Yeah, I think he's from Hawaii, um, but he I think he's the only American actor in the cast as far as I was looking at the cast, which is but the character is an American character as well, but everyone else for the most part is French in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is the first film where I actually saw Monica Bellucci in it as well. And
Right.
Vincent Cassel. I think this may have been the first film I saw with Vincent Cassel in it. So
Yeah.
and now of course you know them. They've been in several movies together. So
Right. And yeah, I think the first time I watched it, I didn't know any of the actors, but this time when I watched it, I did recognize like Vincent Cassel and Monica Bellucci. Vincent Cassel is on I think I recognized him from Westworld, like season 3. He was the main villain on that, so that's kind of what I recognized him from. And he plays the main antagonist in this movie,
Hmm.
which it was and yeah, he did a really creepy job at it in this, and he it was kind of reminded me of Hiddleston's character from Crimson Peak, but that was shot later, but yeah, it kind of reminded. It was funny as that movie Crimson Peak, the cinematographer from this movie shot Crimson Peak as well.
Oh, oh, did he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting because
Yeah.
I love the cinematography in this movie, and I absolutely adore the cinematography in that movie. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But again,
But
it's a Guillermo del Toro film, so
right. With this movie though, the cinematography is one of the things that stands out the most to me, other than the genre, like the different genres that the movie is. It's not just horror movie.
no,
But the cinematography, other than that, it's very I mean, it's very impressive just when you're watching it, because you see a lot of different the camera movements, and just that it's like a historical period piece, and you see there's a lot on screen, like
yeah,
quite frequently in like a lot of the shots in the movie you see and it's I guess the budget, it's a 2001 movie and the budget was 29 million. I
oh,
don't know how that relates to today, but I mean, but it's a lot on screen, and it's like I guess sometimes when you're shooting in like another country, you could it's probably cheaper to shoot there,
yeah.
I would
Oh,
assume.
well, yeah. One of the things that, in addition to the cinematography, is the amazing costumes they have. Uh,
Yeah,
that just stand out because each of the different tribes, like I guess you'd call them, have a different mode of dress, and you can see that very well with the gypsy-like characters at the very beginning, who end up,
right.
being one of the big set pieces for the very end fight sequence with the main character. Um, that
Yeah,
being
they've also got a lot of period costumes with the you have like a French army, and you
oh
have
yeah,
like just the you have a lot of aristocrats, and their wardrobe is it seems to be, as far as I can tell, it seems to be spot on.
that's right. You're right. Yeah, I kind of forget about that sometimes. That this is a very aristocratic movie, especially in terms of how the government at that time is perceived, and then of course all the what do you call it, the poor people and the actual victims of
Yeah.
the so-called beast in the film. Uh,
Yeah, what the movie starts out in the French Revolution, with the narrator in the movie, who's a minor character in the movie, but um, he's about to be killed. He's in his house, and a bunch of revolutionaries have surrounded his house, and they're about to kill him, because that's what they were doing. But the movie itself takes place in 60. It's in the 60s. I think the French Revolution was in the 80s, or somewhere in, I think, 1780s.
oh yeah, I think so. I
Um,
think they mentioned like
yeah,
1776 or somewhere around there. I think.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's what. Yeah, but the movie takes place almost, in 60. It's the main part of the movie. Takes place in 65, but there is some build up to what leading to what the French Revolution is, which they they killed the king at the time, and then they killed all the aristocrats that they could, just because they were fed up with their keeping all the money or whatever they did, and like starving everybody. But with the villains of this movie are almost like part of the resistance, because they're trying to undermine the king with what they're doing, but they're doing it in a very almost terrorist type of way, by killing people with the wolf, or that was not really a wolf, but with the animal. They're killing people with the animal, and then but they're trying to undermine the king, because that's what gets further into the movie. About halfway through, there's a red book that they introduce, and then later the gypsies have the red book, and that book is what they're circulating to get people, to undermine, yeah, yeah, rally people, or to basically show people that what they perceive the king to be. Now the king at this time is Louis the 15th, and the one that was executed publicly was the 16th. But what the king never appears on screen in this movie. He's referenced several times, but what he was doing at the time kind of was leading into what became the French Revolution eventually. But the movie itself takes place in a mountain town called
Mm, yeah, but I forgot what the town itself was called.
Javadon or Javadon, something like that. It's a French town, and it's now called two different ones that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it doesn't exist in one town anymore. And it's based on, at least the wolf part is based on a true story that happened at the time.
And they just extrapolated a story to make all the elements fit within the actual real life. Yeah, and that's one of the great things about this film. Is that it's inspired by actual events, but then you got this genre bending film that's incorporated. Like it has everything about the aristocrats and the separations of different classes. It has everything with, it's almost like a war film within there with the revolutionaries. Yeah. Of course, you have the so-called romantic aspects. And then, of course, one of the things that stuck out with me when I rewatched it again, and I didn't see it the first time, was all the actual racism and cruelty to animals, especially, but also racism as depicted against Manny throughout the entire film, and how cruel everyone is towards him. Stuff like that. I actually didn't notice that the first time I saw it because I was just being entertained because I love werewolf movies, and this is really a werewolf movie.
I think for the time that it's set in, even though there is some hesitation and racism towards Manny, I think that there is some acceptance to him as well, especially when he saves the little girl, and at that point they're all like, this guy's in here doing this, he's messing with the girl with his black magic, and then at the time that's a time where in a situation like that they could very well just execute him, but they don't, and they thank him.
Yeah, well, they actually blame him for that whole witchcraft thing, and they want to more or less execute him until his brother stops him from doing anything against him. He says no, he's trying to save her.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are obviously a bunch of.
Of course, those were the religious people. I think it was a priest or something who came in there. The religious person.
The priest was also a villain in the movie too. So so he was behind some of the stuff that was going on. So it was in his best interest to get rid of the guy. Speaking of the Indian character, and even the main, I guess let's talk about the main character first, which I think he's a fascinating character.
He is.
But I think that the Indian character overshadows him a lot because he is more interesting. Mm-hmm. But I think that the main character is very complex character, and it's interesting the way that they develop throughout the movie. But he is they're brought there. Yeah, he is like a taxidermist, and he was a former soldier and a knight. But their main reason that him and the Indian character come there, and the reason they're there is to study the beast, and to, once the army guys kill it, they're supposed to stuff it and bring it back to the king. And it's not very clear in the movie, but it's made clear further on in the movie. But that's their main goal for being there. But what's interesting and then of course he gets involved with aristocrat's daughter, and also Monica Bellucci's courtesan prostitute character, who turns out later to be a spy. But he gets involved with these two women because that's the kind of guy he is. He's like
he's suave, and
but not only he's got a lot of skill sets. He also draws. He draws and gets him in trouble later.
And he's a really good fighter, as we see at the end when he gets pissed off.
Yeah, the interesting thing about him being a fighter is you don't know this throughout the movie, because the way it's presented and the way that he sits there, and the Indian guy will fight people for long periods of time, like 10 or 15 people at a time, and just beat the hell out of them. And he just sits there and watches it. Like you assume that because he seems to be like a bit of a pacifist sort of character. Later on, when they're hunting the wolves, he doesn't participate in the hunt, and so up until spoiler, but the Indian guy gets killed. Until that happens, then he becomes he show. I mean, he basically has to fight because he probably. I mean, obviously he could fight the whole time, but he
Mhm.
is holding back. He doesn't need to because the Indian guy can do it just as good as better than him. You know.
Well, I think the scene where he's shooting all the guns is when you really realize how really good he is at fighting because he never misses a shot. When they're prepping themselves for going after the beast, the three of them are shooting
Yeah.
guns and he's hitting every one of those. I think they're pumpkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
He's,
Yeah, that scene's great. I
yeah,
mean, I'm a fan of pumpkins anyway, and the pumpkins look so awesome in that scene. And he's if some reason I think it's interesting because the third person in the scene is the Marquis character, the young Marquis who is the narrator of the movie, and when they first arrive in Javadon, that's where they're staying. They're staying with the Marquis and his grandfather, and those two characters are not involved with the shadow conspiracy plot going on. And I guess it's lucky they ended up there, but at the same time, it makes sense that they would end up someone accepting them into their house because because they're not part of the conspiracy. So
yeah. Yep, I agree with you on that one. I was, of course, then he introduces them to the brothel. So
yeah, right, right,
it's a it's a very odd film because it's not really predictable in the way that it progresses from scene to scene. I think that's one of the refreshing things about the film. It's not what you're expecting. Like I said, I was expecting a werewolf movie, and this is not that. Um,
right.
when I'm rewatching it, I see it more almost like films I referenced was be like The Ghost in the Darkness or From Hell or what's the other ones? Sleepy Hollow, where you almost have these
Yeah.
characters who are asked to come in here and kind of figure out this little mystery, but then they get entwined in a bigger conspiracy, so to speak.
Yeah. I was going to mention Sleepy Hollow too because Sleepy Hollow came out in 1999, and this movie came out in 2001. But if you look at the main kind of structure of the plot, it is very similar.
Hmm.
Where you have an out of towner come in and he's doing some research, and it turns out the aristocrats in town are the ones controlling the beast. Where in Sleepy Hollow, it's like the lady from Sleepy Hollow controlling the headless horseman. Um, but yeah, I mean, and another influence I saw right away was just kind of the older Hammer movies.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Especially like reminded me of a Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good one. Yeah, yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
it
I can
kind of
see
was
that now.
reminding me. Yeah, but I think that and like the weird thing about the movie is it does switch genres as it goes, and sometimes you kind of forget when you're watching it, especially earlier on, that it is supposed to be kind of a horror movie. But they do have for the first hour of it, there's maybe like two or three sequences with some people being chased by something and then killed that you don't see. But there's a lot of political stuff, and there's a lot of very complicated dialogue scenes that I like when I was watching it this time to make sure I understood it better. Sometimes I would watch the scene without the dub, and then I would rewind it and watch it with the dub, and Manny's voice is a lot better in the original language. It's like in the dub version, something's up with his voice, but he doesn't speak very much, so it doesn't matter that much. So, but most of the dub is very well done, and a lot of times it's not when a movie's like this. But it's a pretty impressive dub, really.
I'll have to listen to the dub then. I've watched it both subtitled.
Yeah,
Because I over the years since I've watched so many foreign films, I've gotten used to subtitles, and I prefer that over the dubbed of most stuff, unless I'm watching a television show, and then I just put it on dubbed, so I don't have to read
yeah.
a bunch of episodes.
I usually do too, but I guess the reason I didn't on this time, I think every other I've watched it. I watched it like three times. The first when it first came out, and I watched it maybe a couple of years ago. I have a DVD copy of it. And I watched it again, and then I got but this The 4K version, it looks amazing. They
Oh,
did a restoration of it in 2002. Studio Canal did, and they replayed it, I think, at the Cannes Film Festival, and they got like got a screen there. But it like I was looking at the DVD. I would like get it out. I look at a scene from it, and then I pop the 4K in, and I'm like, wow, there's just like it just the color grading is a lot better. It just looks obviously more details. It's 4K, but it looks they did a lot of work to it.
oh, okay. Well, it's definitely a film that deserves a 4K restoration. It still holds up extremely well. Plus, like I said, because it's not like your typical werewolf movie, I kind of almost want to take it out of that genre, which is where it's been placed.
Yeah, it's because it's called Brotherhood of the Wolf, but
Yeah.
there's not really a wolf in the movie. Yes, you find out at the end of it.
There's lots of wolves in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately,
That's
they
true.
all get killed.
Yeah,
But that's part of the animal cruelty in the film, as you see these wolves being massacred, knowing damn well they're not the perpetrator of the crimes in the movie, and the people
right.
they're killing them know they're not the perpetrators of the crime in the movie. And it's yeah. And then of course you have the scenes where there are certain scenes where they're actually set up for like the wolf or a wolf is watching what's going on, which I didn't notice the first time I saw this. I kind of noticed more of it this time.
Yeah,
I actually really thought like we came back to the cinematography and I was like, damn, that was very creative. There's a
yeah.
lot of these scenes where they're outlined where the wolves are watching the humans characters in the film, knowing damn well they're not the ones responsible for what's going on in the film. Um,
There's a white wolf that's
yeah,
appears several times. I think that would I may be mistaken. I don't think it's ever shown getting killed, but
so
I think it helps him at one part later in the movie. But there's a shot earlier on in the movie that is probably the one you're talking about. But there's a shot where there's a bunch of soldiers like they're marching in the background, and it's got the wolf in the foreground. And
yes.
yeah, no, that's like it's within the first like 20 minutes of the movie, I think. But yeah, that's an awesome shot.
Yeah, it is. I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember that from last time. But like I
Yeah,
said, my mentality was different when I
yeah.
first saw the movie. I can appreciate it now more because I already knew the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
you,
yeah. There was a lot I thought I watched it on like DVD a few years back, but there's a lot that I was watching the movie. I was like, I don't remember this scene, which was weird to me, But I think maybe because I was reading the subtitles and not watching the movie at the time.
that could be it.
Yeah,
I can't honestly remember when I started really paying attention to not dubbed, but subtitled movies. And when I was like going back and forth, because I was like a lot of people when I first started reading subtitled movies, it was really hard for me to watch the movie and read the subtitles. But now that it's become second nature, I don't even think about it anymore. Um,
yeah.
the 23 years ago is a long time ago. I don't know when I started doing that, but it could have been around that time, and so I just missed a lot of stuff when I first saw the movie. But like you, I've seen the movie three times. I recently watched it right before prepping for this, but then I saw it before Irreversible, because I knew who Monica
Right.
Bellucci was when I saw Irreversible. And then I realized that she was in that movie. Same with Vincent Cassell. So somewhere around there,
Is she like the wife in that movie, The Irreversible?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, okay,
she gets,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
yeah, it's hard to watch that for sure.
well, Irreversible, I've only ever seen once. It's a hard movie to watch. It's cool. It's an amazing
Yeah.
cinematography film.
I watched it backwards the time I watched it.
They have the forwards version now. I
Yeah,
haven't.
do they?
Yeah, they just put that one out. I think this year or last year. I haven't seen it yet, but I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I want to watch it in chronological order.
Yeah, it's very unique. They did it backwards. It's very yeah.
But
Uh,
getting back to Brotherhood of the Wolf, one of the things I really liked about the movie is the fact that that Mark Dacascos, who I didn't know, was not the main character. So when I watched the movie the first time, and I thought he was a cool ass actor before the
yeah,
movie, him dying shocked the hell out of me. I mean,
right.
it was like pulling the what do you call it? Pulling the sheet from underneath me. I was not expecting that because, in my opinion, I thought he was the main character. He gets all the cool sequences before
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah, I
the
know it. Yeah,
first hour and a half, he gets all the cool sequences. But you know,
yeah.
I enjoy those type of movies where they still shock me and surprise me. And that movie, or this movie, actually really surprised me from beginning to end because it was not predictable. So I don't know if you had the same opinions of me or the same reaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never like when I was watching it, I never thought he was the main character. But I could see why. I always thought he was sort of like he was a main character, but I didn't like it that he died. I didn't. It was cool that I guess it kind of helped this move the story forward, but it would have. I mean, almost rather that he didn't die would have been better for me. But yeah, no, it's almost like a I mean, it worked. It worked because it gave the main character motivation, but it's almost like one of those what do they call it, the fridge, like the fridge when like it's usually like a girl gets killed and then the main character has to go avenge their death. Um, but I mean, it works. I mean, that's the term they came up with recently to kind of like say, hey, this character doesn't have to die to give the main character motivation. But I don't know. I mean, to me, they could have like both worked on figuring it out and going after the pricks who were doing everything, and but but at the same time, and that's another reason why I mean, during the movie, the main character was never active in the fights because
Oh,
they wanted it to be a surprise that he knew how to fight too. But it's like you think if you're going to fight like that, you're going to have to be working out or something at some point. I don't know.
you got to be working out, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he brings it back to the fact that it's still a movie, despite the fact that it's inspired by actual
Yeah,
events.
I know. I'm joking on that. I mean, honestly, it works within the movie. It's like a great sequence and he even puts on like the Indians war paint, the
Yeah,
same war paint he had on, and he goes and like just kills a bunch of people. It's
yeah. I was beginning to think that he killed most of those the tribe
yeah,
of warriors.
the peasant guys. I guess now like gypsy's a derogative term maybe, but they that's what they look
Mountain.
like.
They called
I
him
guess.
mountain something. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
maybe
They're, yeah. But
I
they
don't know.
are. It was weird. Yeah, they had it was the aristocrats who were in the castle were the ones running the show. It's some reason the gypsies were on board with that. I guess but I guess they liked the agenda of what was going on.
Oh hell, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't expect the gypsies to be working with the aristocrats. I just thought about that. Yeah, that is an odd one there.
But I guess that these particular ones were. Well, I mean, the whole thing is kind of weird because do you think the aristocrats I mean, I guess they were when I was reading about and the reason that they were upset. I think the king at the time was starting to become more into science and not into religion, and they were considering it ungodly, and they wanted to undermine him to
Mm.
make him more thinking that he needs to go back to God, and that was what they were trying to do is but I don't think they weren't trying to start the French Revolution at the time, but it may have like nudged it, a little bit, especially because the gypsy type of characters are the ones that would really hang on to it. They may have planted that seed to give them the idea to rise up against the monarchy.
Yeah.
Obviously, all that part's fake and not really didn't really happen, but
It's all real, Dave. That's what really happened. That's
but
what
I
really
mean, something like that could happen. It would be kind of ironic that the aristocrats and the monarchy gave them the idea to rise up, inadvertently.
So do you think these type of horror films are effective, or do you even consider something like Brotherhood of the Wolf a real horror film because it is so entrenched in being a period film and a drama rather than a horror film? Like I said, I mentioned From Hell, Sleepy Hollow, um, The Raven, another one.
Uh,
And these films that like borderline horror films because they actually have other elements in them to take them out of that almost.
right. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was great, especially on the third viewing. I definitely, but and it was when it came out, it made a profit, and it was the I think it's the sixth highest grossing French movie, to come out. So as far as like but so it was effective there, and which is to like release like a French movie in America and do that well, so
Oh
um
yeah.
I think that there are the horror aspects are like really good though, like especially the part where when they go after the beast, like after the pumpkin shooting scene, and then they go after the beast and they have all the traps, and and
Oh yeah.
that whole sequence is fantastic, and it's very and you see the beast. But by the way, the beast is a combination of computer animation, which doesn't look too bad. And that was one thing I think at the time, like back in 2001, I couldn't stand seeing computer animation. Now everybody's just like used to it, but I was like, anytime I saw it in the movie, I'm like, wow, I don't know about that. But now it's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. But it was also like a lot of, I mean, it was also Jim Henson's Creature Shop created like the puppet for it, with the exception of a few shots where it did something real crazy. It was like a puppet, which is pretty effective.
Mm. So since you've seen the 4K version, did the CGI still hold up in the 4K version? This time?
Yeah. It looked good. I mean, it for what it was. You could tell it was CGI, but it's not like you're. I don't know. I think I've become a little desensitized. I've become more accepting of it, where it doesn't bother me as much. It used to just completely take me out of a movie, but now I'm just like, okay, I'm fine with it. How could they have done it without it? It's like,
Yeah, so you must be one of the people who are perfectly fine with the sharks in Sharknado in their CGI, that's right?
yeah. I don't know about that, but I mean, it's fine. It's Sharknado, man. I don't know, but the first one was pretty good as far as, I mean, obviously a horrible movie, but it was good in that it didn't. The other ones were almost like spoofs, but the first one was almost like it was like they took it really serious, but it
Uh,
was very bad, which made it hilarious. But then the other ones were funny a little bit, but they kind of like it was almost like they were doing like the airplane version of it, you know?
so when I come up with another list of movies, we'll have to make sure to do one on Sharknado.
I don't know if I can watch that movie again, man. Maybe,
Brother,
maybe.
Brother of the Wolf is perfectly fine for rewatchable sake. Sharknado is not, just so everyone can understand that part.
I
Uh,
probably muscle through it.
for those of you listening now, I can honestly say that I did go see the I think 15th anniversary screening at the theater of Sharknado. I did see it. Uh,
How did it hold up? Was it just
they
as
improved it.
awesome?
They improved the CGI. They knew that they weren't going to be. It wasn't going to be on a small screen anymore. So they
Did
improved. They went in and improved the CGI. It
did you
was
did you
bad.
you said like 15 years? Is that what you
I
said?
think it's 15-year anniversary is what it
Is
was.
that really?
Yeah, 10
Is
or
that long?
15. It was a big, huge thing. I'd
Jeez.
have to look it up for it.
I
But
didn't
yeah,
know it'd been that long. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I was
we did like
that would be.
7 of these fucking movies, dude. They were,
I
they were
know,
like,
yeah,
they just kept coming out each year.
I know.
But my sister's a huge fan of those films, which is why she loves monster movies like this, and she's seen this one dubbed. She doesn't watch anything subtitled. She
Yeah,
can't think like that. But she loves monster movies and she loves Sharknado movies. This is why it's funny that we're talking about that, and it came up. That being said, Brotherhood of the Wolf, kind of like is an almost, I hate to say elevated horror film, but that's exactly what it is. It's a film that when you go in to watch it, you can enjoy it the first time, but you'll get more out of it each subsequent time you watch it because it's a much deeper film because there's a lot more going for it than just that. Like I said, I started this last time I saw it, I picked up on a lot of the animal cruelty in the film, and when you see them kill the lion at the end, they hold on to the shot of the eye of the lion, and you see a lot of emotion coming out of that CGI lion's eye, simply for the fact that you know that it was used and abused, and where it gets to where it is. And the narrator, the Marquis, explains all that. He explains exactly where the lion, the cub, came from, and he said it had been trained from birth to be cruel and vicious, and it's one of those elements in the film that I didn't pick up the first
Yeah,
two times I saw, but I picked up on this one because humans are cruel and vicious to the wolves in this film, and then when they kill Manny, they are cruel and vicious to him. You literally see the main character have this almost flashback to with the chains when they chain them up. Manny, they chain the Manny up and they stick him with the blades, and you see how cruel they actually are
yeah,
before
yeah.
they
It's
release them.
a bunch of assholes for sure.
Yeah, but
But
I didn't
yeah.
see any of that the first time I saw it. It just didn't dawn on me. But you see that in
I'm
this.
not sure. Yeah, yeah. Was that scene even in there originally? That flashback scene? I don't. They
I
may have
don't I don't know
threw that in there.
because I got the extended director's cut, so I don't know
Yeah,
if it's in the original.
I feel like that wasn't in there. But what you just said though, it made me think of something else. With the lion, um, obviously they had to kill it because it was killing like people. It was killing little girls and women and stuff and little kids. But the lion wasn't responsible for what it was doing. You know, I mean the guy from the main antagonist, Vincent Cassel's character he brought it back from Africa and he was the one training him to do it. But it makes me think about the ending with the Marquise character, who also is a good character. You know, he's as far as like his intentions are good, and you see everything that he does during the movie um, are good. You know, he helps them try to hunt the wolf, and he's against the Brotherhood and the aristocrats who are. But at the same time, he is part of the monarchy, and he is aristocrat, and he can't get past that, and then they execute him for a very similar reason that the lion has to be killed.
Yep.
I never saw those two parallels. So just now when you're talking about that, I was just thinking about
Yeah, no.
it.
As soon as I said it out loud, instead of having written it just as notes, it dawned on me about the Marquise at the very end, and of course he's telling this. He's the narrator of the whole story, so it all
Yeah,
kind of ties back in. See, this is one of those films where
yeah,
you pick up on stuff the more subsequent times that you watch it, because like I said, the first time I watched it, I just watched it because it was a cool ass movie with Mark Dacascos, and now I'm watching it for a whole bunch of different reasons. Because I do recommend. This is one of those few films I do recommend a lot of people watch, and I have always recommended people watch this film, whether it be just a good horror film or if someone asks me what's a good werewolf film, I'm always going to recommend this film, even though it's not a werewolf film. Uh, I
yeah.
I don't know why I do that. It just
Yeah, you trick them into getting in there because they see wolf in the title, and then they have to watch it once they start watching it.
yeah, I know.
And
I
see
know.
if you those martial arts scenes are fantastic, by the way, in there. Yeah, because there's one earlier on. You know, it's
Oh my God. So, are there any final words you'd like to say about Brotherhood of the Wolf?
I think that's all I got on it. But yeah, it's all I got right now, I guess.
All right. Dave, I want to thank you for joining me for this week's conversation in horror in terms of talking about Brotherhood of the Wolf. Everyone out there, it's been a pleasure having you listen to us rant and rave about this amazing film. I hope that you will come back and or listen to more of our conversations in horror and on our subsequent films. Please check us out on all social media sites and have a good evening. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.